Hey everyone, it's Ashley and I'm back with another perfume review, and this time I was testing out Versace's Bright Crystal Absolu. And this is in the Eau de Parfum concentration. And even their tester samples is kind of bright, vividy, dark pink here. And if you've ever seen the Versace bottles, a lot of the ones in the Bright Crystal line have that kind of squarish bottom and just this really heavy kind of oval shaped, jewel looking top for the lid. So they're actually really beautiful bottles if you've ever checked them out. They're definitely worth looking at just for the bottles. I think they're something that's very pretty to display. So for this one, it was created in 2013, and it's the Absolu is supposed to be the intense version of Versace's Bright Crystal. And this one has top notes of yuzu, pomegranate, and the heart notes are lotus, peony, raspberry, magnolia, and the base is amber, musk, and mahogany. And this is kind of a fruity floral, so this is definitely going to be a popular one just for the fact that it is a fruity floral. That seems to be one of the most highly loved scent categories as far as perfume goes. And let me respray myself here. I've been wearing it for a while on the other arm, so initially you definitely get very floral and kind of citrusy with this. It actually is it feels initially floral, citrus, and aquatic, and that's the best way I could put it. The yuzu in the top notes is probably what I would list as that kind of citrusy feeling, and this is a very fleeting moment for it. The yuzu has that kind of lemon lime, kind of fresh tanginess kind of to it, and so when you first smell it, you're going to get a little bit of that kind of citrus blast, and it's going to feel a little bit almost grapefruit smelling. And I'm not sure if it's just a combination of the pomegranate with the yuzu kind of makes it feel grapefruit. That's what I felt like it was initially, but it wears down very quickly from those ones. The pomegranate notes, particularly in this one, gives it kind of a tangy, also kind of bitter but still sweet note. So this isn't like Jean-Paul Gaultier's Madame, which has kind of that kind of bitterness but not as much sweetness. This has more sweetness. This is a more approachable version of kind of like a tangy, bittery fruit, type of fragrance. So this is more of an easier going, journey into kind of some different notes that you normally may not try. So it is quite interesting for that. As it wears down, the sweetness definitely warms up. You definitely, it kind of wears off a little bit from the citrus, and it kind of brings in more freshness, more floral, definitely along those lines. The lotus gives it a very much like an aquatic kind of feeling, and it's a very like a light, sweet note, and it is also has that floralness to it. But when I first smelled it, it definitely smelled aquatic, and I'm not a huge fan of aquatic scents, but in this one I think the balance of the citrus, which is very minute in this one, but the tanginess of a lot of the notes and the floral and the freshness, the aquatic definitely melds well with these. I feel like the aquatic kind of gives it a little bit of a softer undertone, and it balances out some of those tangy bitterness, that you get from some of the other notes. And there's a lot of sweetness in it, so it kind of mellows it out. So it's not, overwhelmingly bitter, overwhelmingly tangy, that kind of thing. The peony also gives it kind of a softer, lighter, brighter, fresher feeling as well. The raspberry tends to be a very strong note in this one. It's kind of difficult to pick out initially. I feel like the pomegranate feels like a stronger note at first, but as they kind of calms down a little bit, the raspberry comes forward a little bit more. Yeah, it definitely gives it kind of a very sweet kind of red berry kind of note. It feels a little bit juicy there. And I think that sweetness that you get from that note kind of balances out a little bit some of the tanginess that you get from it. The magnolia, a lot of times in these notes, you know, this particular perfume, some of the comments that I've seen that people have said about it is that it can kind of feel plasticky. And I think that might be due to the Magnolia. Magnolia has kind of like a waxy kind of, you know, scent that it leaves behind. It can give it kind of like a fresh, almost lemony, you know, kind of citrus feel and floral, but also waxy. And I think that's kind of leads towards the whole almost plastic feeling that people have mentioned. The base with the amber, musk, and the mahogany, those are really subtle. I mean, I think out of those ones, yeah, there's a little bit of wood notes, but it's not something that, you know, is really easy to detect. I think it's more in the background. You definitely can smell the lotus and the magnolia more, the peony for sure, and the, you know, the pomegranate, the yuzu, and the raspberry. Those, for me, it feels like more lotus, raspberry, pomegranate, those kind of notes. But it definitely has kind of like a tangy, slightly bitter, slightly kind of, you know, catches you a little bit off guard, but the other notes sweeten it up, calm it down, make it a little bit more accessible. So I can see why this one is, you know, pretty well rated as far as, you know, people who like and love it. Do I think this is an intense version? No, not really. I think they definitely amped up some of the sweets and some of the fruits in it, so maybe that's what they mean by intense, but usually intense, you would believe it has more of a nighttime kind of feel, but this is definitely strictly like a daytime type of fragrance. This is a really beautiful, soft, kind of classic, young fragrance. It doesn't feel, you know, overly, you know, like too old or too powdery or anything along those lines. It kind of feels, you know, very, very fresh, very vibrant, very spring-like, very summer-like. I could see this one definitely doing well in summer because it feels very refreshing when you're wearing it. It feels like, you know, you sprayed a body spray almost on you. And that is one thing, you know, the only caveat I have with, you know, the Versace fragrances is that particularly they can be kind of light, and there's only the dark crystal one, I believe, is the only one that I think has that kind of heaviness. The rest of them tend to be very light, not super long lasting. They smell great, but they aren't very particularly intense. So if you're a fan of like lighter fragrances, something that feels more realistic as far as, you know, it's not a very heavy fragrance, something that feels like it could just be, you know, something fresh around you, then this would probably be a good one for you. For the sillage, I think, well, actually the longevity on this one is definitely moderate. I would say on me with my oily skin, it's actually kind of soft. You know, I get probably 4 hours tops out of this one. Some people report getting probably about 6. So, you know, it's kind of soft to moderate for how long it lasts. And for sillage, it's definitely on the softer end. I feel like this is the only way that people would initially really smell this on you is the first hour maybe that you spray it, and even then it would be iffy. I think it feels very soft. You know, the initial brightness of the notes, you know, for the first half hour maybe you could smell it as more intense, but after that it wears down and it feels a lot softer, a lot more accessible, just very clean smelling, very light, you know, very fresh. So, and then when it wears down to the end, you know, you get all those notes of the kind of citrus feeling and, you know, kind of the tanginess from the pomegranate, and as it wears down into kind of aquatic, raspberry, you know, fruity sweetness, it eventually wears down and you're basically left with kind of like a white, bright, floral smell, and it's vaguely sweet and kind of musky, but that's about it. I mean, I know there's amber in this, but it doesn't feel like there's amber. It says there's mahogany, but it feels very light, and the same with the musk. Even the musk doesn't feel very strong in this one. So, you know, that's essentially what I got from it. So it's a very, very soft fragrance, very good for year-round wear. I would definitely say it's more of a spring, summer fragrance. This isn't something that I would, you know, feel is very fall or winter appropriate. Very day-like type of fragrance. But, you know, if you're looking for something that's just kind of, you know, soft and approachable and a little fruity and a little bit tart and, you know, has that kind of bite to it, this is definitely a good one to try. Especially if you're not a fan of tart fragrances, this is a good introduction to something along those lines. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this content, and if you liked it, please like and subscribe, and I'll be back with more reviews soon. See you guys. Bye.